You're standing under the harsh buzzing lights of the arrivals hall. Your flight just touched down. Your head feels heavy, your phone is hanging on at 3%, and the line ahead of you snakes toward a row of immigration booths where officers sit, still, focused, unreadable. Then it happens. That look. An officer lifts his eyes, scans the crowd, and motions you forward. No smile, no hint of what he's thinking. Just a silent invitation that could decide whether you walk straight into a new country or get pulled aside for questions you never expected. Every traveler knows this moment, but almost no one understands what's really happening. Because the truth is, airport officers aren't improvising. They're not guessing, and they're definitely not asking questions at random. Behind that glass booth is a system, one designed to read you before you say a single word. Your posture, your bag, your breathing, the way you clutch your passport. They're studying it all, and in the next minutes, you're going to see exactly how it works. You'll learn the 10 airport questions almost every passenger gets tested on. And more importantly, how to answer them smoothly, confidently, without raising a single red flag. Because whether you're landing in the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, or anywhere in between, the logic behind these questions is the same. Say too much, and you look suspicious. Say too little, and they start digging. But once you understand the insider logic behind each one, you'll walk through that airport like someone who already knows the script. So, let's begin with the very first question, the one that sets the tone for everything that follows. Question 1. May I see your passport? It sounds routine, almost automatic, but inside every airport on Earth, this simple line, "May I see your passport?" is more than a formality. It's the opening test. The officer isn't just asking for a document, they're watching you, your hands, your breathing, the way your eyes react when you step forward. Picture this. You reach the counter, the fluorescent light hitting your face at the worst angle possible. The officer extends a hand. You start digging through your backpack, papers shifting, zipper stuck, and suddenly you hear yourself say, yeah, just 1 second. That tiny crack in your voice? That half second of panic? It says more than your passport ever could. Because airport officers, especially immigration officers, are trained to read micro-hesitations. Those tiny signals your body sends when you're unsure, stressed, or hiding something. They're not judging your vacation plans. They're judging your composure. Here's the insider truth. Passengers who fumble at this very first step often get flagged for extra questions. Not because they're guilty, but because they look unprepared, unpredictable, or overwhelmed. So here's the move seasoned travelers make. Keep your passport within easy reach, not buried at the bottom of your carry-on. Not somewhere you'll have to unpack 3 things to get to. When the officer asks, you hand it over calmly. Steady, simple. Say, here it is. Or just, of course. No jokes, no explanations, no apology tour. Because in airports, confidence is your first clearance, and every second you look like you belong, those glass doors get a little closer to sliding open for you. Now, once you pass that first test, they move on to the question that quietly reveals your entire travel story, even when you don't realize it. Question 2. How long will you stay? It sounds harmless, almost friendly, but don't let the simplicity fool you. This is one of the most revealing questions in the entire airport playbook. You step forward. The officer glances at your passport, then asks, in the same flat, unreadable tone, "How long will you stay?" Most travelers panic right here. Not outwardly, but inside, their brains start scrambling. Was it 10 days or 12? Do I mention the wedding? Should I explain my itinerary? Do they need the exact dates? And suddenly, Instead of a clean answer, you hear yourself rambling, "Well, I'm here for maybe 2 weeks, but it could be a bit longer unless… if my friend invites me to… well, you know?" And just like that, the officer's eyes lift. Not aggressively, not accusing, just sharper. Because rambling equals uncertainty, and uncertainty is a red flag. Here's the insider truth. Every country tracks visitors who overstay. The databases behind that small glass booth know trends, patterns, and risks. So when you hesitate, even for a moment, you fit the profile of someone who might not be planning to leave. But experienced travelers? They answer with precision, short, steady, unshakable. "I'll be here for 10 days, 1 week, 2 months for school." Done. No extra stories, no nervous laughter, no justifications they never asked for. Because officers aren't trying to trap you. They're checking whether your plans sound controlled or chaotic. A calm, confident answer tells them one thing: this traveler knows exactly what they're doing. And once they hear that, they move on to the question that quietly tests whether your story matches the data they already have on you. Question 3. What's the purpose of your visit? This is the question that can flip the entire conversation, from smooth and casual to tense and investigative in a matter of seconds. You hear the officer say it in that steady, neutral tone. What's the purpose of your visit? It sounds simple, but behind that single sentence is a whole hidden system, one that already knows more about your trip than you think. Because here's the insider truth. By the time you reach the counter, your purpose of travel is already predicted by your flight history, visa type, reservation data, and even the patterns in your passenger profile. They're not asking because they don't know. They're asking to see if you know, and if your words match the digital trail behind you. Most travelers take this question the wrong way. They start talking too much. They get emotional. They over-explain. Picture this. You say, "I'm visiting friends." The officer's eyebrows lift. "Where do your friends live? How did you meet them?" Suddenly, you're in a mini interrogation. All because your answer sounded vague. Here's what seasoned travelers do instead. They stick to the 3 safe categories: tourism, business, education. The only 3 words immigration instantly recognizes and accepts. "I'm here for vacation." "I'm attending a business meeting." "I'm studying for 1 month." Clean, contained, complete. No life story. No details from 2012. No unnecessary context. Immigration lines aren't TED Talks. Because here's the twist. It's not what you say. It's how confidently you say it. If your answer is precise, controlled, and perfectly aligned with your traveler profile, they move on. If not, you might be heading toward that quiet little side door labeled secondary inspection. But answer it right, and you'll glide straight into the next phase, where officers probe something deeper than your itinerary. They probe your stability. Question 4. What do you do for work? This is where the officer leans back just slightly. Not relaxed, but observant, as if your next sentence is going to reveal far more than your job title. You hear the question, "What do you do for work?" And instantly, you feel the shift. This isn't small talk. This isn't curiosity. This is one of the quietest, most calculated filters in the entire airport system. Because your job tells a story. One the officer can read in seconds. A job means stability. Stability means roots. Roots mean you have a reason to return home. And a reason to return home means you're not planning to overstay. If you're a student, the logic is simple. You're learning, not running away. If you're employed, it signals structure and responsibility. But if you hesitate, if you mumble, if your story sounds improvised, the officer's mind goes straight to the next question. How are you funding this trip? Here's the insider truth most travelers never hear. Immigration officers don't care whether you're a CO or a cashier. They care about whether your life makes sense on paper. So here's how seasoned travelers answer: clearly, calmly, and without a single unnecessary detail. I'm a teacher. I work in marketing. I'm a software engineer. I'm a student. That's it. No self-deprecating jokes. No 5-minute backstory. No awkward explanations like, "Well, I just left my job, but I'm hoping to start something new soon." That's the verbal equivalent of opening a door they never asked you to open. And if you're between jobs, traveling long-term, or retired, there's a better way to say it, one that signals confidence, not chaos. I recently finished a job in accounting and I'm taking a short vacation before starting my next role. I'm retired and traveling for a few weeks. Short, structured, in control. Because at this stage of the interview, the officer is measuring something simple. Are you grounded or drifting? And the moment they feel you're grounded, they move on to the next question. One that tests whether your story lines up with someone else's. Question 5. Are you traveling alone? The officer tilts their head just a little. Not suspicious, just calculating. And then they ask the question that sounds harmless, but isn't harmless at all. Are you traveling alone? Most passengers think this is casual, maybe even polite. But from an airport insider's perspective, this question is one of the most strategic ones they ask. Because here's the truth almost no traveler realizes. By the time you're standing at that counter, the officer already knows the answer. Your airline shared your data the moment you checked in. Your seat assignment, your booking record, even who scanned their boarding pass right before or after you. It's all visible on their screen. They're not checking whether you're alone. They're checking whether your story matches the system. So imagine what happens if you panic. You start talking too fast. You over-explain. You add details they never asked for. Well, I'm traveling with a friend, but she's kind of not exactly here yet. She took another flight. We met online. We're supposed to. And in an instant, the officer shifts. Not angry, not aggressive, just sharper. Because nothing raises red flags faster than a traveler who can't give a straight, clean answer. Here's how seasoned travelers respond. If you're alone, you say it simply and confidently. Yes, I'm traveling alone. And then you stop talking. No filler. No commentary. Silence is your ally. If you're with someone, keep it equally simple. I'm traveling with my sister. I'm here with a friend. No names, no origin stories, no unnecessary explanations about how long you've known them or where they're waiting. Here's the insider logic. The more you explain, the less believable you sound. Nervous travelers ramble. Confident travelers answer, pause, and wait. Because this question isn't about who you're with. It's about how sure you are of your own story. Project confidence, and the officer moves on. Project uncertainty, and the interview gets longer. And speaking of longer, the next question digs into something deeper than companionship. It digs into the part of your life that could make an officer stop everything. Your family connections in the country. Question 6. Do you have any family here? This is the moment when the officer's posture changes, not in a threatening way, but in a way that tells you this next answer matters more than you think. You hear the question, calm but calculated. Do you have any family here? To most travelers, it sounds almost friendly, like the officer is making conversation. But from an insider airport perspective, this question is one of the most strategic filters in the entire interview. Here's why. Family equals connection. Connection equals potential long-term stay. And a long-term stay, especially for the wrong traveler, equals a higher risk of overstaying a visa. So, the officer isn't really asking about your cousin or your aunt. They're measuring your ties to the country, and how those ties affect the likelihood that you'll eventually go home. If the answer is no, just say it cleanly. No, I don't. Don't over-explain. Don't panic rant. No, I don't know anyone here. I swear. Or, no, no one at all. No family, no friends, nobody. Because over-explaining sounds like fear, and fear sounds like you're hiding something. But if your answer is yes, that's where many travelers panic, because they assume mentioning family is automatically suspicious. It isn't. You just have to handle it correctly. Yes, my cousin lives here. My sister works in the city. Short, honest, surface level. Because the truth is, the officer isn't evaluating your family. They're evaluating your reaction to the question. Do your eyes shift? Does your tone change? Does your body stiffen like you're suddenly guarding a secret? That's what triggers follow-up questions. Not the family member, but your behavior. From behind that counter, officers aren't looking for perfect answers. They're looking for steady answers. Whether the truth is yes or no, deliver it calmly, confidently, and without a single ounce of defensive energy. Because in immigration interviews, the secret isn't just what you say. It's how steady you are while saying it. And once you clear this checkpoint, the next question shifts from family ties to your personal history, and whether it matches what's already in their system. Question 7. Have you been here before? This is the question that catches travelers off guard. Not because it's complicated, but because it feels like a trap. The officer glances at your passport, then looks up with a neutral, almost friendly expression and asks, "Have you been here before?" Sounds innocent, right? But behind that simple question is a silent database check, one that already knows the answer before you open your mouth. Because here's the airport insider truth. Your travel history is logged. Every entry, every exit, every visa, every stamp. They can see it all with one glance at their screen. So why ask? Because they're not checking your past. They're checking your honesty and consistency right now. This is a memory test disguised as conversation. If it's your first time, keep it direct. No, this is my first time here. Don't add, I've always wanted to come. Or, I was supposed to come last year, but... No fluff, no storytelling. If you have visited before, your answer must land with clarity. Yes, I visited last summer. I was here 2 years ago for business. Notice something? Time frame. Clean. Simple. Controlled. What you don't want to do is drift into long, nostalgic vacation stories or emotional details about who you met last time. This isn't the place. Because here's the twist most travelers never realize. The officer isn't just listening to the words. They're listening to the hesitation between the words. If you pause too long, if your voice wavers as you try to remember the date, if you look away like you're unsure, that tiny slip can trigger a deeper review, and once that mechanism activates, the conversation shifts. More questions, more verification, more waiting. This question isn't really about your travel history. It's about your composure under subtle pressure. The kind that most travelers don't even notice. Remember this, in immigration, calm is currency, and if you can hold it here, you'll breeze past a checkpoint that quietly slows down thousands of nervous travelers every single day. Now, the next question is different. It's less about your past and more about what you're carrying in the present. A question that can flip your trip instantly if you answer it wrong. Question 8. Do you have anything to declare? This is the one question that seems boring, until it isn't. The officer looks at you with the same calm expression as before and asks, "Do you have anything to declare?" It sounds like bureaucracy. It sounds routine. But this, right here, is where more travelers get into trouble than any other part of the airport. Because this question isn't about what you brought. It's about whether you understand the